And this is where we're going to start talking about the OHSS. So that was the egg retrieval. Overall, good. But where it's bad is I developed OHSS, or ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. And it can be really hard on your body if you develop that. I know some of the things that they say you're more likely to develop it is if you have factors such as you're under 30 when you do IVF. And I'm not under 30, but I'm close. So I'm not an older IVF patient. So I don't know if that puts me in that category or not. The other one is if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, which I have. If you had a lot of follicles when you were taking your IVF injections, which I did. I had a ton, like over 40. If your estrogen levels are high before egg retrieval, which mine were super high. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 700 or 7,000, whatever unit they go by. I don't remember exactly. I just remember it was a 7, and they said like it's pretty high. And a couple other things, but those were the factors I had. And I was kind of nervous that I might be susceptible to having OHSS after because of that. And so one of the reasons, well, actually my doctor only gave me Lupron for my injections because I think, they didn't say it to me, but I think they did that because they knew my estrogen level was really high. And Lupron's supposed to help prevent OHSS from happening. So they were going to also have me take Pregnal in addition to Lupron. Instead, they just had me do Lupron, and I think that was to help avoid OHSS. I got it anyways. I think I was just susceptible to it because I normally have so many follicles on my ovaries anyways, having PCOS. So, that was the part that was awful. And I'd heard about it, and I didn't really think it would really hit me, but it did. And so that night after the egg retrieval, I'm like sitting there just relaxing, and my stomach is just getting more and more increasingly bloated. And it got to the point, just that same night, I looked like I was 6 months pregnant. My stomach was so bloated. It hurt, and it was so uncomfortable. And I even weighed myself, and I weighed like 9 pounds more than I normally do. And I hadn't weighed myself in a couple days, so maybe I gained some water weight in the couple days prior to that, but I'm pretty sure most of that was from the IV and all the water I was retaining at post the procedure. And I was so uncomfortable that it was like hard to breathe, and I couldn't move without it hurting. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't lay on my side. Like, it hurt to laugh, it hurt to cough, it hurt to sneeze. Like, all of those things, it was like murder whenever I had to do it. And in fact, I don't even think my body would let me sneeze because it just somehow prevented me because it was so hard to do. And so I was like, I expected to be sore, I expected to be a little bloated, but not to the severity that I had. And so I finally called the emergency line that they gave me should something happen, should I experience some of what I was. And so I called, and the doctor on the other end I don't know, she just kind of gave me a weird vibe. And I'm not normally a baby, and I'm usually pretty tough when it comes to stuff physically. But she made me kind of feel like I was just over exaggerating and I was being like a hypochondriac. And she just sounded indifferent. And when I was describing everything to her, she's like, do you want me to prescribe you something? Or, I guess you want me to have you monitored tomorrow at your clinic? It was just kind of like not the authority in her voice that I would expect for someone in that position. I would kind of expect them to say, hey, I want you to go ahead. We're going to prescribe this medication for you. It might help with your pain. Or, hey, I really want you to get checked by your doctor tomorrow. But it wasn't anything like that. And I don't know if it's because she was young and she's just not as experienced. Or she hasn't developed that empathy. I don't know. Or maybe it was just, maybe I'm just reading tones wrong. I don't know. But it made me feel like I didn't have a reason to be complaining. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to suck it up the best I can. I'm just going to go to bed. And that was really difficult because I could barely breathe. So I had to literally prop myself up like how I am now to sleep, to be able to breathe. I was really scared. And so I tried to just read. I tried to pray. I tried to do everything I could just to get my mind off of it. And I eventually fell asleep. Well, so the next morning I woke up, and I had said that I would go get monitored. But when I woke up, I was feeling better. I felt like some of my swelling, my stomach went down a little. I weighed myself, and I'd lost a couple pounds of the water weight. I wasn't in as much pain. I could actually breathe again. And so my husband was going to take me to the clinic before we went to work. But then I said, you know what? I don't want you to waste your time. Like, I think they'll just say, like, there's nothing we can do. You're fine. Just keep drinking fluids. And then send me home. And then it would have wasted our time. I said, why don't we just go to the pharmacy instead? We'll get the painkillers that they prescribed, which was like Tylenol No. 3. It's just Tylenol with a little bit of codeine in it. So, long story short, we ended up getting it eventually in the day. And I was fine. You know, I thought things was all right. Nothing really changed too much. But I was okay. And so then comes the third morning. It's 2 days after egg retrieval. That's when it was getting bad. So first I went to the clinic because my nurse had called. She said, hey, I saw you contact the emergency line. I really wish you would have come in so we can monitor you. And I told her why I didn't. She said, okay, that's fine, but I want you to come in tomorrow morning anyways. So that next morning I went in, and what I was afraid was going to happen happened. Like, they took my vitals and they did an ultrasound, and I was just kind of made to feel like, what's the big deal kind of thing. And it wasn't my nurse that was there. It was a girl that was working there, and then a different doctor than I normally see who did the ultrasound. And the girl that was doing my vitals, again, like, you know, she was just really young, and which is fine, but I just feel like maybe she was a little inexperienced or something, because she didn't seem to take anything I was saying seriously. Like, when she was weighing me, I said, oh my gosh, I'm weighing 9 pounds more than I normally do. This is 2 days post egg retrieval. And she goes, oh, what's the big deal? You can't expect to lose it all the first day. And I'm kind of like, that would make sense if I was having a baby. I didn't just have a baby. I'm not expecting to lose baby weight. I'm talking just about water. And I'm not expecting to lose it all either, but I would think I would lose a few pounds, because the 2 pounds I had lost, I gained right back. And it's like I'm retaining everything. And then I told her my stomach is so full. She's like, oh, that's normal. And I said, I'm just in so much pain. It's hard to get up. She's like, yeah, I mean, that happens. You know, and it's just those kinds of comments where, yeah, maybe that is normal to a certain degree, but I don't think she understood to what degree I was experiencing. And my blood pressure was a little elevated, and then I did like a urine sample, and then the doctor that looked at it did say, like, okay, are you drinking enough fluids? Because your urine sample is super concentrated. And I said, I'm drinking a ton. In fact, like, I'd already had half of a bottle of Powerade, and it's one of these, you know, beautiful giant 32-ounce bottles. So I had like 16 ounces of that, plus I'd already had 16 ounces of green tea with peppermint in it at this point. And this was only like 7 in the morning, so I'd only been awake for like an hour, hour and a half or something. So that's quite a bit of liquid for such a short time period. She goes, well, you're probably not drinking enough. I'm like, well, I'm trying the best I can, but not a lot's coming out when I do use the bathroom, and that's where I'm kind of scared. And all that. She goes, well, you need to make sure you're drinking something with electrolytes. I'm like, is this not Powerade electrolytes? Does this not have, you know? And I'm like, trying to be patient, because I know they're just trying to be helpful, but it's kind of like, I literally just told you how much I drank, and I literally told you I just drank something with electrolytes. But it's like they didn't believe me or something. I don't know. And then she was doing my ultrasound, and she did admit, she was like, wow, your ovaries are huge. And she's like, so you might be experiencing more pain than most people because of that. I was like, okay, that makes sense. So is there anything we can do? No, because, you know, if we try to drain you, the water would just come right back in your ovaries, and then it's putting your body through more harsh procedures that you don't want. And I was like, okay, that's a true point. And then I said, is there any kind of like anything we can do for the swelling? Because it's just so uncomfortable. And she's like, not really. And just drink fluids, you know. And I'm like, could I get a doctor's note? Oh, well, just wait till your doctor gets back, or your nurse gets back. So it was just kind of like frustrating, because it was just like I was in a lot of pain. I was really uncomfortable, and I felt like they weren't taking me seriously. And it was just frustrating, you know, and especially when you're not feeling good to begin with. But, you know, maybe I was just, I don't know, I thought maybe I am exaggerating. Maybe I'm being a huge baby. Again, I'll just go home. I'll suck it up. So I go home, laying in bed, and, you know, I'm feeling about the same. And then all of a sudden, around like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, I'd just been laying there, and I started getting these really bad pains in my sides, like near my ovaries. And I thought, well, maybe I've just been laying here too long. Let me get up and move around, use the bathroom, maybe, get a snack as much as I could eat because it was hard to eat. Well, all of a sudden, like within just a few minutes, those pains just became more and more and more intense. To the point it felt like someone was literally taking a butcher knife and just stabbing me over and over on each side, like as hard and as quickly as they could. And it was the most painful thing I think I've ever experienced. I mean, I've sliced like part of my thumb off back in the day when I worked at Panera Bread. I used to be a food prep, and I like literally sliced off part of my thumb. It grew back. Whole nother story. Really gross, I know. That pain I experienced from that was less than the pain I was experiencing near my ovaries. It was so bad, and it would not go away. And I took a quick painkiller, the Tylenol number 3, did nothing. I put a hot pad on it, barely did anything. And it was to the point where I was like screaming in pain. I was crying, trying not to like cuss because it hurt so bad. And so I finally called my nurse, told her what was going on, asked her what I should do. She went back and forth with the doctor a little bit and with me based on my symptoms. And then they said, hey, look, we really want you to go to the emergency room just to get checked out. They're like, you're probably okay, but we'd rather you go there. Our clinic's closed. There was a snowstorm, so they had to close early. So they're like, we'd feel better if you went to the ER. It sounds like maybe there's some torsion of your ovaries, meaning that they could be twisting, which that could be deadly if it goes on too long. And so I said, okay. So my husband got home. We went in the middle of the snowstorm to the ER. We got there, and thankfully we got in right away. Everyone was really great, really helpful. And the doctor that was talking to me said, yeah, it sounds like you have torsion of your ovaries. Let's check it out. We'll do an ultrasound. Well, it turns out it wasn't. Thankfully, blood was flowing to both ovaries after I did my ultrasound. But what they did just fine is that, like they said earlier in the morning at the other place, my ovaries are huge. And I asked the lady, I'm like, well, how huge would you say they are? She said, they're bigger than your uterus right now. They are huge. And her eyes were really big when she's saying this. The doctor's eyes like got really big when he was telling me. The nurse that was taking care of me saw the numbers that were the size of my ovaries. Everybody was shocked, like just how large they were. And so basically he came to the conclusion that like there was no room for my ovaries to move, and they were just like shoving into my insides, just pushing really hard because they were so overstimulated from the medicine that I had been taking. And so I guess that was causing the pain, and I never thought that would be something that could happen. And so anyways, they just drugged me up. I was on morphine. I was on another painkiller. I don't remember what. And she had a third one there as well. And she had to keep increasing the doses just for me to even feel something. Like I was still feeling the pain, even with all 3 painkillers in my system. And it hurt. And so finally, after all 3 were in my system, I could still feel the pain, but it wasn't like it was before. Like I could actually hold a conversation. I wasn't crying. I wasn't a hot mess. It just felt like bad period cramps at that point. So then I thought, I can manage period cramps. Like that's okay. But I couldn't manage what I had experienced before. So they basically said there's nothing we can do really. We just have to let nature take its course, let your ovaries shrink back to their normal size, drink lots of fluids, and in the meantime, we'll give you some Percocet just for you to manage your pain. And that's what they did. They released me. I went home, took a Percocet, slept like a baby, and then I'm doing better today. And so there was a moment today where my Percocet was wearing off, and the pain started coming right back that I had yesterday. So right now, I don't know if it's my ovaries are shrinking back to normal, or if the Percocet's just that amazing, or what. And I'm not a person that's a huge advocate of painkillers. I try not even to take Midol when I'm on my period. Like I'm just one of those weird people that just tries to avoid medicine as much as I can. But in this case, I'm so grateful that they have this Percocet because I could not be functioning at this moment. I've taken almost a whole week off from work, which I hate. I don't miss work very often, but I felt it was necessary to do. So, super long story short, I'm really grateful if you've bared with me through this, and I'm sorry I didn't really do my hair today. This is the most I've done for my looks this week is just put a little makeup on and kind of did my hair, and it doesn't look like it. But anyways, I really appreciate you bearing through with me. Hopefully, I don't know how this could really help you because I probably just gave you more of a nightmare, but just, I guess, something to be looking out for that this could happen, especially if you have PCOS. you have a lot of follicles, high estrogen count, all of that prior to going to egg retrieval. So just really make sure if you have those factors, really ask your doctor in advance what you could be doing to avoid OHSS, and then finding what would be best for you to help your symptoms afterwards. Just because it is like a hell you don't ever want to go through. So in the long run, I'm still grateful we did it. We have 36 eggs. Out of those 36, they inseminated 30, and then overnight, 28 of them actually made it. So we're just waiting to reach that day 5 mark. They're going to tell us how many made it to that point, and I'm really hoping it'll be like 15 or more. I'll be grateful for anything, but I'm really hoping it'll get to that point since we started with so many. And then they're going to freeze them, and then we'll do a frozen embryo transfer in probably a month, depending on how my body heals from OHSS. So anyways, just, be aware that it's out there. It can happen easily to anyone. Just think about what you might do in case you do develop it. The couple things they say, definitely drink lots of fluids, particularly ones that have electrolytes in it, because you lose all of those. You need to have a lot of protein, and then take several things that are going to help with bloating. One was the mint tea, which helps a little. They say prune juice because you're going to be constipated. I'm just going to be real. My nurse was telling me today to eat actual prunes, like 3 or 4, and then have some Miralax. So I'm going to try that later. Hopefully that works. But, and I've also heard, that, oh man, I can't even think of the name of it. I'll come back to this and I'll write it in the video later. Can really help as well. My mind just went blank. But anyways, those are some things you can use to help. Hopefully you don't experience it. The egg retrieval process isn't bad. Just for people like me, sometimes it can be rough afterwards. But I'm still grateful we did it. I'm still excited to have future kids coming from all this. So yeah. All right, that's it for me. This is super long. Okay, have a good day. Bye.